My sister sent me a message that said, "Don't even think about coming. You and your kid just embarrass us." I didn't answer. I opened the banking app instead and quietly pressed cancel. A week later, on her wedding day, everything started to fall apart. My name is Harper, and this has been sitting heavy on my chest for weeks. You know that moment when you're just scrolling through your phone and suddenly your stomach drops? That's what it felt like when I read her text. I kept staring at those words until they stopped looking real. My daughter Emma was asleep in the next room, curled up with her blanket, completely unaware that her own aunt had called her an embarrassment. And me, I guess I was the family disappointment. A single mom working two jobs, living in a small apartment, driving a 10-year-old Honda that makes a weird noise when I turn left. What Natalie didn't know was that I had paid for her entire wedding. The venue, the food, the flowers, the photographer, every single thing. It all came from the joint account our dad left us, the one where I'm the primary administrator. She thought it was some automatic trust fund Dad had set up, like the money just appeared on its own. She had no idea I was the one approving every charge. When I saw her message, part of me wondered if I should tell her right then. I didn't. I just stayed quiet. Natalie and I weren't always like this. We used to be close. We shared clothes, whispered secrets, stayed up too late talking about what our lives would look like one day. That was before I got pregnant at 22, by a man who disappeared as soon as he saw the test. Mom had already been gone for 2 years by then. Cancer took her fast. When Dad found out I was pregnant, I could see the disappointment in his face. Even though he tried to act like everything was fine. He never said anything cruel, but I felt it. He died of a heart attack when Emma was only 6 months old, and just like that, I was on my own with a baby and two part-time jobs, trying to keep the lights on. Natalie was 19 when he passed. She was still in college, still living what looked like a perfect life. In his will, Dad left us equal shares, but he made me the administrator of the account because I was older and, as he put it, more responsible. I remember thinking how strange that was, considering how disappointed he'd been in me. There was enough money in that account for both of us to live comfortably if we were careful. I only used my share for emergencies and things Emma actually needed. Natalie used it like it was her personal ATM. When she got engaged to Preston last year, she was thrilled. Preston came from money. His family owned a chain of car dealerships, and Natalie wanted a wedding that would impress them. She planned everything big: a waterfront venue, a designer dress, a reception for 200 guests. Every week I'd get a notification about another charge. 5,000 for the venue deposit, 3,000 for the dress, 8,000 for catering. I approved every one of them. She was my sister, and I told myself Dad would have wanted her to have the wedding she dreamed of. But somewhere along the way, Natalie changed. Or maybe she'd always been like this and I just hadn't seen it before. She started making little comments whenever we were together. "Must be nice not having to worry about your appearance when you're just working at a grocery store," she'd say, laughing like it was a joke. "I don't know how you do it, Harper. If I had to live in a place that's small, I'd lose my mind," she said once. Then she patted Emma's head and added, "Poor thing. At least she won't remember growing up with so little." I tried to ignore it. I kept telling myself she was just stressed about the wedding and didn't really mean it. But it didn't stop. About 3 months ago, she stopped inviting me to dress fittings and cake tastings. "It's really more for the bridal party," she'd say. "You wouldn't be interested anyway." The bridal party included our cousin Melissa, but not me. Melissa, who Natalie had complained about for years. But Melissa had a big house and a husband who worked in tech, so suddenly she was bridesmaid material. Then there was the engagement party at Preston's parents' place. It was huge, a big estate with perfect lawns and a lake behind it. Natalie insisted I come, said it would look strange if I didn't. I saved up to buy a new dress. Nothing fancy, just something from Target that didn't look like my work clothes. Emma wore her favorite princess dress and was excited to see her aunt. The moment we walked in, I knew we didn't fit. Everyone looked like they belonged in a country club ad. Preston's mother, Diana, gave me a quick look up and down, like she was trying not to show how she felt. Natalie came rushing over, and for a second I thought she was happy to see us. Instead, she leaned in and whispered, "Harper, Emma's dress is too loud. Can you keep her in the back? Diana's friends are here and you know how they are." It hit me that she didn't want my daughter to be seen. I didn't argue. I just nodded. took Emma to a quiet corner, and let her play with her toys while I made awkward small talk with relatives who clearly didn't know what to say to me. That's when I heard it. Natalie was standing near the patio doors talking to Preston's sister, Courtney. I wasn't trying to listen, but her voice carried. "Honestly, I'm mortified," she said. "I love Harper, I do, but she just doesn't know how to present herself. And that kid is always making noise or getting into things. I told the venue coordinator to seat them in the back at the reception where they won't show up in photos." I didn't realize I was crying until my Aunt Beverly found me in the bathroom about 20 minutes later. She wrapped her arms around me while I tried to breathe. Aunt Beverly was my mom's younger sister. After Mom died, she was the closest thing I had to a parent. She held my face and said, "Harper, baby, being blood doesn't give anyone the right to treat you like you're less than. Your mama would be furious if she saw this. And your daddy. He'd be heartbroken. But she's all I have," I whispered. She shook her head gently. "No, you have me, you have Emma, and you have yourself. That girl in there isn't the sister you grew up with. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and you have to believe them." I kept thinking about what she said for weeks after that. Then, a week before the wedding, Natalie's text came through. I was at work stocking shelves during my evening shift when my phone buzzed. "Don't even think about coming. You and your kid just embarrass us. Preston's family will be there, and I can't have you making us look bad. I'll send you pictures." I stood in the cereal aisle reading it over and over. My hands started shaking. I didn't even know what I'd done. I walked to the back room, opened the banking app, and looked at the scheduled payments. Final venue payment, $15,000. Caterer, $12,000. Photographer, $5,000. Florist, $4,000. DJ, $2,500. Dress alterations, $800. The wedding was 8 days away. I canceled every single payment. I didn't reply to her message. I didn't call. I just went home, held Emma a little tighter than usual, and waited. I didn't even know what I was feeling. Part of me felt sick, part of me felt calm, and part of me felt guilty. I couldn't tell if I'd just made the worst mistake of my life or finally stood up for myself. I found out pretty quickly. The first call came 3 days before the wedding. 6 in the morning, my phone started ringing with Natalie's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. By the time I got Emma dressed and ready for daycare, I had 17 missed calls and about a dozen texts. They started confused, then turned panicked, and finally completely hysterical. "Harper, the venue says the payment didn't go through. Call me now. What is happening? Dad's account was supposed to cover everything. Harper, please, this isn't funny." I didn't answer. Maybe that was cruel. But every time I looked at my phone, I heard her words again in my head. "You and your kid just embarrass us." I didn't know how I was supposed to forget that. That evening, Aunt Beverly came over with Thai food and a bottle of wine. She set everything on my small kitchen table like she'd done 100 times before. "I heard Natalie, S been calling everyone trying to find you," she said. "Diana apparently had a full meltdown when the caterer called about payment." "Good," I said, and I meant it. "What are you going to do?" I shrugged. "Nothing. She uninvited me, remember? Not my circus anymore." Aunt Beverly smiled a little. "Your mama would be proud. Took you long enough to grow a spine when it comes to that girl." 2 days before the wedding, Natalie showed up at my apartment. I heard the pounding on the door while I was reading Emma her bedtime story. I knew it was her. No one else knocked like they owned the place. I opened the door. She looked awful. Her hair was greasy, mascara smeared under her eyes. She was wearing yoga pants and one of Preston's hoodies. "What did you do?" she whispered. "Me, nothing. I've been right here where I was told to stay. The payments, Harper, everything bounced. The venue is threatening to cancel. The caterer wants cash up front now. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I looked at her, and honestly, I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. "I got your text," I said calmly. "The one where you uninvited me. The one where you called my daughter an embarrassment. I figured you didn't need my help anymore." Her face went completely pale. You did this on purpose." I pressed cancel. "The money's still there, Natalie. Dad left it for both of us, but I'm not paying for a wedding I'm not welcome at." "You're insane. This is my wedding. And Emma is my daughter," I said. "She's 3 years old and you called her an embarrassment. What kind of aunt does that?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Preston's family, they have expectations." Diana said, "I don't care what Diana said. I don't care about impressing people who look down on us. I'm your sister. Or I was. She just stood there, opening and closing her mouth like she didn't know what to say. Finally, she whispered, I can't fix this in 2 days. We'll have to cancel everything. Then cancel it. Harper, please, I'm sorry about the text. I was stressed. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did, I said. You meant every word. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to finish reading my embarrassing child her bedtime story. I closed the door. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in months, I felt strong. From the bedroom, Emma called, Mommy, who was that? Nobody important, sweetie. The next day, Aunt Beverly told me the whole family was in chaos. Natalie had managed to pull money together from Preston's parents to keep the venue and caterer, but everything had been scaled down. No flowers, a cheaper photographer, the guest list cut in half. Preston's mother was apparently mortified and kept asking how Natalie had messed things up so badly. Natalie sent me one more text. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I replied for the first time. No, you did that yourself. On the wedding day, I took Emma to the park. We got ice cream, watched the ducks, and I tried not to think about waterfront venues or designer dresses. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was my cousin, Melissa. Harper, you need to know something. The wedding's a disaster. I sat down on a bench while Emma played on the swings. The groom didn't show up, Melissa said, out of breath. Preston's gone. No one can find him. I almost dropped my phone. What do you mean gone? He left a note at his parents' house this morning. Said he couldn't go through with it. Something about Natalie's true character coming out during all the wedding chaos. It's a nightmare. She's at the venue in her dress, guests are leaving, and Diana is threatening to sue someone, probably Natalie. I watched Emma pumping her legs on the swing, laughing, completely unaware of any of it. Part of me felt like this was some kind of justice. Another part of me just felt sick, remembering when Natalie was little and I used to braid her hair. Where is she now? I asked. Still at the venue. Aunt Beverly's with her. Harper, she's asking for you. I shouldn't have gone, I know that. She didn't deserve my help. But I called my neighbor Ruth to watch Emma and drove to the venue anyway. Maybe I'm weak. Or maybe I'm just not as hard as I wanted to be. When I walked into the bridal suite, Natalie was sitting on the floor in her $3,000 dress. Makeup smeared, half-empty champagne bottles around her. Aunt Beverly stood by the door like a guard. Natalie looked up at me with swollen eyes. You came. I'm an idiot, I said. But yeah, I said, I came. She let out this broken little laugh. Preston left a note. Want to know what it said? She pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her dress and handed it to me. My hands felt strangely steady as I read. I can't marry someone who treats her own family like garbage. If this is how you treat your sister, how will you treat me when things get hard? My mom was right about you. I didn't know what to say. Diana knew, Natalie went on. She told Preston what I said at the engagement party, about hiding you and Emma, about being embarrassed by you. She recorded it on her phone. Natalie wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup even more. She played it for him last week. That's when he started pulling away. Then when the payment mess happened and I blamed you for being petty, he asked what I'd done to deserve it. I told him about the text, about uninviting you. Her voice cracked. He said, you're not the person I thought you were. And this morning he was just gone. Aunt Beverly caught my eye and gave a small shake of her head. Like she was reminding me not to forget everything that led to this. I lost everything, Natalie whispered. Preston, the wedding, his family's respect, all because I was trying to impress people who never even liked me. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Is this Harper? A man's voice asked, deep and unsure. Yes. This is Preston, please don't hang up. I need to talk to you about your sister. I stepped out into the hallway. Natalie watched me go, panic all over her face. I didn't leave because I don't love her, Preston said. I left because I needed her to understand something, and I didn't know how else to do it. My mother has been in my head for months, telling me Natalie isn't good enough, that her family isn't impressive, that she needs to be more sophisticated. And I watched Natalie turn into someone else trying to meet those standards. I didn't say anything. I just listened. When I heard what she said about you and your daughter, I was disgusted, he continued. But then I realized something. My mom made me feel ashamed of my own cousin who has Down syndrome. We didn't invite him to the engagement party because she said it would make guests uncomfortable. I went along with it. I'm just as guilty as Natalie. I leaned against the wall. This was not the direction I expected this day to go. Where are you? I asked. At the airport, the Marriott next to it. I know this is crazy, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to ask Natalie if she still wants to marry me now that I'm done trying to impress my mother. I want you and Emma at the wedding, front row. I want my cousin Jake there. I want my aunt there too, the one my mom calls trashy because she has tattoos. I need to know if Natalie wants a real marriage or just a performance. My heart was pounding. You're asking me to be your messenger. I'm asking you to help me find out if the woman I fell in love with is still there. If she is, I'm coming back. We'll go to a courthouse tomorrow with the people who actually matter. No big venue, no pretending, just real. I walked back into the bridal suite. Natalie looked at me like she was holding her breath. Was that him? Yeah, I said. And you're not going to believe what he just told me. Natalie had been cruel to me and Emma, calling us embarrassing, while I secretly paid for her expensive wedding. A week before the wedding, after her hateful text, I canceled all the payments. Chaos followed. Natalie had to scramble, and Preston, her fiancé, ran off, disgusted by how she treated her family. Natalie broke down, realizing she'd spent a year trying to impress people and hurt those who loved her. With Aunt Beverly's support, she called Preston back, and they decided to get married at the courthouse with only real family present: Emma, Jake, Aunt Beverly, and me. Even Preston's mother, Diana, softened and apologized. Natalie used some refunded wedding money to start a college fund for Emma, and the family slowly healed. Months later, Emma had a simple, joyful birthday with all of us. Standing up for myself and Emma had been hard, but it saved our family and helped everyone see what truly matters: love, honesty, and real connections over appearances.